So Zan Bantabatala, my name is Ugogonomi, and today I'm sitting with Busisiwe Skhosana, Mkhulu Mahlalentabeni. It's good to see you guys. I hope you guys are good, and I think I should welcome you guys. Tell us Mkhulu, tell us Kala Busisiwe ubani before I tell them why I have you on.
Yeah. So Busisiwe is the streets call me Miss Manager. The other streets call me Mahlalentabeni. Abanye bathi Mulane Lihle.
Oh, that's a beautiful
And I, by profession, am a social media manager. Work in corporate, and then my other job is that Nisango.
You are an underground gang member.
Board of directors.
Okay, Mkhulu. So I think today I brought you in because I want us to have what I feel is a very important conversation. It's something that a lot of people wonder about, and I guess mostly a lot of people who are healers going into corporate, right? Uhuti, what is the working world like for Isangom? I just want to start lap. I know I've broadened it, but I want to know like a day in the life of a healer in corporate.
I think my journey has been somewhat difficult and I think a lot of the times I'm anchored by practice, right? There's things that I know what's smelling zonze. Mankomendlini smelling phahlo. Ngikhuluma ukuthi hayi ngiyamsebenzini kwamakhuwa. Ngicela ni behave lapho. Kodwa ningayenzi ezinye izinto manje kube njani. But it is easy and difficult in the sense ukuthi I get to see more, I get to feel more. A lot of my ancestors' skills are imparted to me, and I somehow tap into that without even realizing sometimes. But it's also just been heightened a lot, especially when you go from working full-time at home and now we are hybrid and I'm spending a lot more time with my colleagues and I'm realizing I'm very heightened. And it's running away from other things. Can you tell me I had this dream? So it's some days are easy, some days are
people
tough.
really do that to you? Like, I had this dream.
They do. And Mina, I was fortunate because I had an opportunity. We have something called family meeting.
Yeah.
Where you tell people about yourself, and I used that as a way to just lay those foundational boundaries. You don't ask me about your dreams, you don't ask me what I'm seeing, you don't ask me what I'm hearing.
That's beautiful.
But also I'm gonna respect not to be intrusive into your life if I see some things. But obviously if you are in danger of yeah, chai.
But I think, Coco, Mina, what I want to know, like, how did you even know that corporate was still even a world you could go into? Because I think a lot of the time there's this misconception or this idea that people have, once you become Isangoma, you sort of have a lot of doors that are now closed, and when you can't live out your dreams and whatever. And I think why I'm framing it this way is because that's what I thought, the main reason I never wanted to become a healer was because I felt my dreams as a whole, they're shattered. But how did you then know as Ushkopu Swanban or Mkhulu Swanban, I could still go into these spaces and function fully?
Mambuya, you have this perception that you can carry on as normal. So I came back with that. I'm just gonna carry on, and then the Sangoma is just on the side. The side hustle, which is something I'm very big on. But I was always anchored by everything I do. I always ask Ikhosi, if it's the right door for me, open it. If it's not the right door for me, close it. And then I noticed, the more I started having those conversations with them, they would open, right?
Wow.
Even with opportunities, if there's a rejection with a certain opportunity, it's that door I ask to be closed.
I love this.
So if there's a door that opens, but I'm also cognizant that door is also open for a certain time and it's not going to be forever. So when I went into where I work now, and I won't mention names, it is so crazy because I started at work as a contractor. For nearly 2022, they said, look, our entire team is restructuring. We don't have people. We need people who are agile, fast, experienced. And then we had that chat on the 22nd. And then on the 24th of January, bam, but can you start tomorrow? And I was like, that's the door that opens. And it's how it opens for me that tells me Uti, idlozi. Because there's a sense of magic to it.
Yes, and it feels completely different. Yes. And do you ever feel like you are either trapped in the space or bigger than the space?
I think a bit of both.
Really?
A bit of both, because how you phrase your question, they feel bigger all of the time, which often feels like I'm trapped. And then sometimes I'm feeling trapped by people's limitations and their thoughts and their limited thinking. So that's the contrast. But I often feel like I'm bigger than the thing or the institution or the people I'm with. And maybe it's because I get to see a lot more than they don't. I always say,
yeah, I know. I've had similar experiences, but I think because I'm more of an audio person, right?
Yeah.
So when people would speak at work, I'd be like, I hear you speaking, but I hear someone so much older than you in you. And then I'd be curious about like, who are you really? Because ngiyakubona wena in the physical, but Mkhulu, there's like a bigger person, and I think that the few people would understand it, but I think a few other people would be like, I really long at she's a bit weird, you know. And then I know this is a different kind of question, but has it ever impacted your growth? Like where you feel like because I am a healer, then certain doors in corporate also close on me, or people treat me differently.
Look, it is tough. It is tough because, I'm trying to find the balance between my own thoughts and my own perceptions and what is actually happening.
Yeah.
Right? I do feel Uguti, people treat me differently because my light beams a bit more. Right? I feel like some people treat me differently because manghamba ngithi ngicala babone mina before babona mina. So some people get to see idlozi lami likhanye lilihle ligcwele yonke indawo. So some people tend to gravitate towards me. And then some people tend to run away from me, and not intentionally, or they don't even realize they do it, but there's just an avoidance to it that I do understand. But I think more than anything, the person who hinders my growth is me. Right? I'm scared of shining. Because I think people attribute it to imiti. I'm scared of putting myself out there because people are going to attribute it to, velo, what was I'm scared to try harder because I'm always worried, Uguti, my success is not going to be attributed to the fact that I've been working for 11 to 12 years, but it's going to be, attributed to idlozi. And those two work together. Idlozi lafika una 12. Yes. You have this skill, that experience, you can do that. Those people, you can, and they add to it and they amplify it. Even the things that I think I'm limited in doing, they come and just expand on it. But then I withdraw because I'm like, people are going to think, and then
but is that wrong? Like, I think that's what I want to know, right? Because the mutsi part, right? Like, I'm an avid, like, I don't love mutsi like that, but I'm an avid, even emsebenzini umuntu uphethwe inyawo, I always have a remedy. Why don't you mix A, B, C, D, and E, right? But naturally that also tells you, then it means that in terms of herb knowledge and how much I use herbs, that's really the base that I would go to. So, like, is it wrong that people think that I use that stuff, or is it just because it's a perception that when I use that stuff, it's bad stuff or stuff that heighten me?
I think abanye abantu don't necessarily look at umuthi the same way that you do, right? Omunye umuntu uzocabanga ukuthi because when usebenzisa umuthi, it makes their light shine lower. Or you're using umuthi ukuthi wena uphakame and everybody else is not seeing. Where else when usebenzisa umuthi ngoba umthethwe you report ukuthi these are the things that you need to do. And not only just ukuthi ukhanye emsebenzini, but ukhulise. And when your intention is to just work on more, idlozi in your relationship and ukhulisa your gift, but people see it, but now it has ripples on me. Right?
That's awful.
And when uthi also usebenzisa umuthi ukuthi uhambe ekhanyeni, to protect yourself
and cleanse,
right? But abanye abantu will take something and think ukuthi it has negative impacts. Or when you also put imithi in other people's things, you know? Which is also why I'm very careful not to give people food at work.
Yeah.
And I'm a giver. I'm a baker. I cook. I love those things. But now I'm very cognizant of I'm not going to bake and give to everyone.
Yes,
because I can give this person this thing now, and then next week they're in an accident, and it was to him when it was still going to happen anyway, right? Or they fight with somebody, but say, Busisiwe Vele, you know, ever since she came, we've started fighting. Before she came, we were not fighting. So
guys,
it's those type of things. But I'm also learning ukuthi if I do that, it's an insult to them and the gifts that they are, you know, bringing to me. So I'm slowly stepping into that confidence ukuthi, what you are going to think, you're going to think. Ukuthi ngikhona lana, or I move somewhere else. If you have those problems, they're going to continue anyway.
Do you think that corporates then are conscious about allowing us as African people to almost be comfortable then in our skin and in our space? Because in as much as you're saying this, there are other African people or Black people, for example, who inhabit these spaces and still would use immunity and other stuff, even though those people might not necessarily be gifted.
Yeah.
You know, so for example, and why I'm asking this, I've had this argument with my colleagues at some point, right? Where I work, there are rooms and spaces maybe called prayer rooms. There are rooms and spaces where people of a certain religion can go there and maybe even just wash their feet, or wash their hands, or whatever.
Yes.
But I've never heard that there's a room and a space for us. For example, if I just want to burn my incense and I'm far away from everybody else, then I can do it. And the answer that I got from another person who's African and Black actually was, it's because Tina, as African people, we do not ask of corporates to do that for us.
Yeah.
You know? So my counter answer was that we've never known that we can, you know?
Yes.
But I want to know, Guti, we always say, Guti, there's so much diversity, you know, there's so much this, there's so much that. As African people who are becoming more and more conscious of the fact that we're African, are the corporates actually allowing us to express the Africans in us? Or is it just a thing of, we come here for like 8 hours and then we're displaced anyway, and so we continue to feel uncomfortable?
Sure, that's a very layered question. The tricky part about that how I would answer you is that corporates take time to change.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at even issues around mental health, right? Corporates will say we are embracing mental health, but in the everyday life, it's actually not right.
Yeah.
There's policies that are being drafted. There are these things that are put in place. Would say, no, there's a psychiatrist. But even the person who's suffering from that worries, if I go there, will that information be used to counter my performance and my score when it's time for bonuses and promotions, right? And then Tina, we are also afraid to show up as who we are in corporate because one, outside of just them being an institution, there's so many religions.
Yeah.
And when there's conversations around religion, there's often conflict and you don't want to eliminate yourself or alienate yourself from certain, experiences. You don't want people to shy away from you or not even get close to you. So I think if we were to champion that, it would be great. But then the counter is going to be, but you are burning impale, which travels, right? And impepo has a lot of effects, right? Impepo cleans, it heightens, it brings to light certain things. And some people are going to feel uncomfortable to say, what if impepo manje and I go into a state and I tell you all these things about myself that I didn't want to?
Yes.
Or the smell lingers and we don't know how to get rid of it. The smoke machines are going to detect it and now the whole building is, flooding. But I think it's in teaching the people around you, your small group, right? I'm in a discipline of 4 people. So I teach them, I tell them, guys, I'm going to burp, and I'm not going to say, excuse me. There's going to be a time when I come with my beads. Sometimes I won't wear them. It means absolutely nothing. It's my thing. Don't worry about it. when you see me kitted out in full beads, it doesn't mean what is something bad is happening. No. This is a personal journey, and there's reasons why I do and I don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will come with it, and it's slowly getting them used to seeing those things in their spaces, so it's not a taboo. And I think that's the easiest way we can start. But to take it to the whole institution when there's also race at play.
Yeah. So I think for me, that's my thing, right? I've never been in any institution where people of other races have to sort of ease people into the beads like we do.
Yeah.
Have to ease people into the fact that they burp like we do.
Yeah.
And so I think the reason I'm asking some of these questions is like, I'm very like direct, right?
Yeah.
Does it mean that for the longest of time, we've sort of allowed people to put us in a position where even as healers, we have to explain ourselves? And like my real question is why? I know I'm asking you because this is your opinion that I want,
Yes.
right? Not good, it's Bible.
Yeah. Look, I think it's still trying to navigate ourselves in corporate, right? Before you can even start navigating corporate as a whole, right? Right now, like your first question where we're like, okay, we didn't even think we could come back and work. But now we know. So the siyasa, why? It's fear of rejection. It's fear of losing your livelihood. It's fear of rejection. It's fear uguti. If I push too hard, I will lose my job. If I'm too strong, there's going to be a policy that's put in place, and other people won't have opportunities to be hired because they now know uguti sangomas are difficult.
Yeah.
I don't even disclose sometimes, when I go to job interviews.
Neither do I.
I don't, because I'm just like, why should I? Nobody comes in here and say, hi, I'm Busi and I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Nobody does that. But it's remembering, Uguti, I have to at some point declare, because the world intertwines and there are behaviors that are going to be emitted from me that they need to be aware of. I mean, if I go into trans, they're going to look at me and put me in a psych ward. So I need to prepare them. They do. I mean, I've gone. I was unfortunately in a very bad accident, and when I got to the hospital, I don't think people there were really educated, and I immediately went into trance. And I think the first thing was, how could she go into trance having sustained such hectic injuries and then come out of it still fine and nothing happened? And the shouting, maskwaza, the shouting and all of the things that you're saying. And, naturally they are trained to think, Uguti, something is wrong with you. You had a brain injury. Now imagine that in corporate, in the middle of a presentation, and they're looking at you like, yeah, we said we are fine with this thing of yours. Man, just so ya rasa. So ya shout, so and also we have no control of what Indros is going to do. Some people have the perception of Uguti chaotic. Where sometimes it's just gonna
or it's like an evil spirit.
Or it's an evil spirit. It's just there's not too many people who are Black in corporate who also understand who we are.
Yeah. And I wanted to go to that place as well to ask you now, do you have enough support from other African people though about it? Because I've found actually that it's more the Africans or the Black people that will make you feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I always wish I could ask people the question why, but I also understand which sometimes it's like it's not something, but I just want to know, like, in terms of support, why do you think we don't have that support as healers?
I think it's because Black people really understand the power that comes with the gift, right? So you'll see with even the jokes, your gang is here with you today, right? It's more of, I understand the power of the gift that you have, and I understand, Uguti, you are more likely to see me, hear more, and I don't want you to see bad stuff from Iza.
Yes.
White people or other races are just like, I'm going to respect that because it's yours and, that's who you are. But they don't actually understand the magnitude of it.
Yeah, I know. I think my manager is always like, are you okay, Norm? You're not feeling any of our pain today. And I'm like, I'm okay.
And I think it's also that. It's conversations around Isangoma or the gift. It's always a joke.
Yeah.
Nobody ever actually wants to sit down and ask really serious questions.
Yeah.
And when they do, they feel the need to apologize all the time. I mean, just last week, I had a colleague of mine who said, you know what, I actually want to understand because we sang Ngoma, but a lot of the times when I'm with you, talk about God, I don't understand Isabu. But she kept saying, I'm sorry if I'm being too intrusive. I'm sorry if I'm being too personal. I'm like, no, I'd rather have that conversation with you so you know how to navigate me than for you to come and ask me to interpret your dreams.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think at least I can relate. So I had a colleague who, as soon as she knew I was a healer, she didn't eat lunch with me. She didn't like, Yazi, when someone avoids, you know, until I think the one day she found us singing with my other colleague a church song. And I think we had a very spiritual conversation. And that's when she started inviting me maybe to things like prayer sessions and whatever. And I think we grew such like a good relationship after that. But I was like, it's so crazy how people will hear one word about you and like cling to that one thing about who you are that they might not even give you like a proper chance. You could literally be like the nicest, kindest person, which a lot of healers are, by the way.
Yes.
And then it just goes completely south, you know? Now that we're talking about this as well, do you then feel that as a healer, then there are opportunities that could be taken away from you because of this?
Yes. I mean, I'm really shooting myself in the foot with this one, but I do. And it's not, I don't think it comes from a bad place. Corporate, more than anything, is about control and being able to control the chessboard, right? All the players. And I think when there's opportunity for me to maybe rise to the next level, it feels, because of that fear that we spoke about earlier, then they might feel a sense of, I won't be able to control this.
Yeah.
You know? So I can't give somebody who's already so powerful more power. I can't give somebody who already has so much authority more authority.
That's deep.
And it's that thing we would say, is viyele, you know. But in the same breath, some people will give you opportunity because they feel, Uguti, I'm working with divine protection.
Yes.
So if I have this person on this level, all of our things are protected. We are led in a different type of way, right? But I've also come to a point where, you know, I've decided, Uguti, I don't believe in formal employment, right? I've decided, Uguti, I'm going to be a contractor, I'm going to be a freelancer, whether it's in corporate or government agency, where I don't have to be part of the rat race, right? Because the rat race is having to do all of these things to get the promotion, to get the bonus, to elevate, right? Corporate, climbing the corporate ladder. I'm happy to come in, sell my skill, sell my service, make a couple of friends along the way and go home.
Yeah.
You know, that way I don't also have to worry about people thinking, oh, she probably got the promotion because she was burning something.
Yeah.
Or she put something under my chair, or it's the cake she baked us, guy, you know?
And I also think on a more ethical level, a lot of healers can like smell the bullshit anyway. So it's very hard because you're faced with what you're calling this red race. And then there's also that thing of, as a person, I might actually just really be a very honest and authentic person.
Yeah.
And so I will sort of consistently repel anything that's not like that.
Yeah.
You know? I think I want to close on the conversation, but what I want for you to do for me is give someone who is struggling with their gift and being in corporate advice.
Sure. I think more than anything, I would say trust yourself, right? Really, really, really trust yourself. Know that you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And a lot of these mistakes are because you don't trust yourself or you are doubting yourself. And don't run away from being isangoma in the workplace. You are a sangoma the minute you wake up, and unfortunately you're a sangoma when you are sleeping, you know? So do not try and run away from who you are. Embrace it, but also just remember umthetho weshoba. And don't do this thing where you try and convince people you have the gift. Right? I'm seeing a lot of us having to prove ourselves with weird things like score predictions when matches are playing. Who's going to win the World Cup? Is that person going to win Big Brother SA? Like, don't stop trying to prove yourself. If you are wrong, you are wrong as a person. So if you say something is going to work and it doesn't work, that is fine because we all get things wrong. But don't anchor it on, oh, I'm wrong, so my gift must not be legitimate, you know? And don't teach people to also anchor you or put you on that level where everything that you say is attached to your gift.
Yeah.
If I'm saying Nigeria is going to win against South Africa, it's because I've been looking at the fixtures.
Yes.
Not because the Mandela in Nigeria.
Also, I think that is like to make Lozi so shallow.
Yeah.
It
does.
And I think people maybe who haven't dealt enough with Lozi, they don't understand the depth of Idlozi to that extent, and I think that's why then I have these conversations, right, where I don't like to say to people, oh no, don't do this, don't do that. I like to have different people's opinions and for us to then have an open mind about these are the possibilities in the realm of being spiritual, right? There is never like a clear and solid line. You sort of are the one that creates it. But I think in doing that, sometimes people do feel boxed in because now there's pressure of having to predict scores or having to fit into a certain box or a certain narrative, which I feel I've struggled with at some point. And that's why I wanted to have chats like these, where it's like, sometimes, I'm like, how really in corporate you went through inte eganje na ganje. And because we do everything so differently, it's nice to have someone else in corporate and you're like, actually, maybe I've been through some of the things Busi's been through, so I'm not crazy.
Not at all. I mean, Mina, I used to, in the beginning, have these ideas come in, or I would dream about projects, right? Or I would approach a project and I'm thinking, in the last 2 hours, I feel like I was absent, but when I look at my screen, there's an entire strategy on the page, right? And then I realized, my guides are there. They are. That's why they are my guides.
Exactly.
They don't go to sleep because my zini or like I khuluma isingisi lana.
Yeah.
Siyakhumsha with my people,
Yeah.
And when I feel some projects are not going to go well, and I'm very certain it's not even my experience, my skill, it's them. I find ways to bring it back to the experience or communicate it in such a way that the next person can hear it. Because I can't go to HR and say, yeah, but because my guide said,
yeah,
right?
I know.
But they do. And let's not run away from also telling people that, I tell my manager, guys, nizongixolela. But some things, if I say trust me, just trust me.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the English to break it down, but wanna something, Lana, and just trust me.
I love that. I really love that. Okay, I think I'm gonna cap the conversation at that. Thank you so much for today and just a short conversation. I think definitely there is someone who needed to hear this message because these messages never just happen. But yeah, thank you guys for ukusilalela and ukubuka. I would love to hear your comments on this topic. It's very, very dear to my heart. And I've been saying in other, podcasts that I've done to say I'm at a very definitive crossroad in my life, And so a lot of the questions I'm asking about corporate is because there's so many observations that I'm making now more as Coco Nomi and less as Nomi, And the more I look at it, the more I want to understand why we either make ourselves softer for those spaces or why we then become bigger than the space, And also conversations with people like you who are saying in a sense, Uti, it's actually okay to know that you shouldn't be in corporate and in a long-standing contract or relationship with them. But because you know who you are and because you know your value, and I think as Black professionals, we need more and more of that. So this conversation was obviously for me as a healer, but for other professionals out there who are struggling with the fact that I am a Gogo or a Mkhulu. I'm finding myself in this space and I either feel like I cannot navigate the space because of that. And I think maybe someone will get the right message, which is either take up the space or leave the space, guys.
Yeah.
Like leave the space altogether. But thank you guys.